Hello guys, happy Friday. Welcome to the CDO Active Directory workshop. Today we're going to be going through a little bit of an intro to Active Directory, what it is, what it encompasses, and also uh, how it is used in competitions and stuff like that. So here we get going. Alrighty, so first things first is we're going to have the attendance sheet. I'm going to keep that up on screen for about 2 minutes. If anyone who's moderating the chat wants to drop the link in chat, that'd be great. Then we're going to have a presentation, and after the short presentation, we will go through a hands-on activity afterwards in the Discord. So here is the attendance. I'll leave that up for a minute or two so people can get that. Alrighty, so hopefully everyone's done with that. If you need the link, hopefully it's up in chat. Someone will put it up in chat if you do need it. And next is, if you don't already have it, if you want to participate in the hands-on portion, you're going to need the Global Protect VPN to sign into the server during the workshop. So you can download this right now if you don't have it, just so you don't have to worry about downloading it when we get to the workshop. But if you already have it, no worries. So here we go. So firstly, a little anecdote. I remember in elementary school, I was, I had one computer in every class. It was like a little computer, so students could like learn how to type or learn basic computer stuff, basic computer skills. And then there was always a few computers in the library. And I always thought to myself, like, how is it that I could log on to the computer in one room and not like I don't actually have a user on that computer. Like it's not like my home computer where I have a user on it. It's it's kind of magic. It's like I can log in here in one place, and I can log in a completely different place. Well, after a little bit of growth and not being a third grader, I realized that it was actually just a little technology, and it was Active Directory, which is today's topic. So if you've ever wondered why you are able to even at UAlbany, if you're able to go into one building and log in on a computer and retain files and whatnot, it's because it's Active Directory. That's how that works. So what is Active Directory? It's kind of a broad term. It encompasses a extremely wide range of directory and identity-based services. And there's a ton to break down here, so let's get started. And yes, I know those icons are like straight from 2002. There's the only icon set I could find. So what are identity and directory services? The gist is that AD is a service that manages network resources and permissions across a network. So it's a very centralized hub for administration of network resources and user permissions and users and groups and stuff of that nature. It's comprised of several different subservices, which all work together to make up Active Directory. The main service that typically is running is Active Directory Domain Services, or ADDS, and some other services that make up parts of Active Directory that may also be used are Active Directory Lightweight Directory Services, Active Directory Rights Management Services, and Active Directory Certificate Services. Those are all just some subcomponents that offer some different features and allow you to do certain things I mean, as you can tell, rights management services has to do with rights management, and certificate services deals with dealing out certificates. Pretty straightforward. So the basic structure of Active Directory is we have domains, trees, and forests. So a domain is a group of network objects, so think users and devices. So you say you have two computers and two users for each computer. They are not local to the computers themselves, but they can sign on, and that's a domain. So they have a server that's acting as the domain controller, and then they have two computers, and then they have their users. And then stepping back, say we have several of those. We have a collection of domains. So if we have three of these, that's a tree. And then if we have 3 trees, we have a forest. It's pretty simple. It's not very once you get into the nitty gritty, it gets more complex. But this is just the basic structure of it. It's not so specific. Like a tree can be one domain. So, and what you'll see a little later on during the hands-on portion of what these things kind of actually mean. So we'll go over that in the hands-on portion too. In competitions, the most you'll be asked to preside over is a mock domain. Seeing as a tree or a forest would be a lot to manage. And as you scale back, those become more so enterprise level of administration. It can get crazily big very fast. This basic domain tree forest structure of Active Directory is still very useful to know, especially when setting it up, because you need to know the structure when you're setting it up. Again, we'll go over that in the hands-on portion. So another thing with competitions is I would say to get comfortable without a GUI, or even just getting comfortable doing things from the command line. And keep in mind, it's okay not to have every single command committed to memory. This is why we have our 5-minute plans. This is why we have, our worksheets that we write stuff down on that's useful to know. Some competitions will be nice enough to give you the GUI. Sometimes they won't. Sometimes they're mean. They give you a server core, and you have to do everything more or less manually. Just be sure you know how to do both and be comfortable with both. For the hands-on portion, we're going to be using, we'll have a GUI, so no need to worry if you don't have any experience without the GUI. So next, for some powerful tools in domain administration, we have RSAT, ADUC, ADAC, and group policy. All of these are tools that we can use to administrate the server, our domain controller and domain, and all of these are extremely powerful, extremely useful, and we'll go over a little bit of each one. So RSAT is a suite of tools for remote administration of servers. It's kind of all in the name, remote server administration tools. It's like a bundled package. It allows you to run things remotely to manage servers, and some of these may be like the server manager menu, as opposed to being in the command line. The server manager, I forget if it's ADUC or ADAC, but they're both built. I think one or the other is built upon PowerShell, so it's like running PowerShell commands remotely, basically. But again, with the caveat that you keep it, if you cannot configure RSAT properly, or if it's not say if it's not already configured and you can't get it working, you're not going to be able to utilize that asset in the administration of your server or domain controller or domain. And also, another thing to keep in mind is RSAT sometimes can be used offensively. They can use it attackers may use it to establish remote connections to your computers. So that's something to keep in mind. And moving on to ADUC. ADUC, or Active Directory Users and Computers. ADUC is extremely powerful and can pretty much cover all of your server administration responsibilities as far as users, managing user rights, managing group rights, managing access of settings, and even down to granular settings for computers on the network. The only thing it lacks is group policy, which group policy is really powerful. That is something that can make or break your success in a competition, or even just in day-to-day operations of a server. If you have really poor group policy, really loose group policy, attackers may very easily gain access to things they're not supposed to. And with the exception of group policy, you can do pretty much everything else in ADUC. All your other responsibilities will be able to take care of ADUC. And again, if you don't have RSAT configured, it's like a server core, then you're not going to be able to utilize ADUC on the server core because RSAT, you need that interface to run those commands. Or not run those commands, but like go through those like predetermined settings that it has, as opposed to like if you were on the server core, you'd have to do it all manually. Next is ADAC, or the Active Directory Administration Center. ADAC is essentially a more thorough ADUC. So they're very similar. A lot of people have trouble determining what the difference even between them is. And the one thing is that ADUC, which is Active Directory Users and Computers, that menu in your domain controller, everything you can do in ADUC, you can do in ADAC, and then some. So ADAC is, it's been described as a more updated version of ADUC. However, I don't know how truthful that is, because it can be cumbersome, kind of hard to navigate, as opposed to ADUC in my eyes is easier for learning when you're starting off. I'd say they're both worth knowing how to use them to their fullest potential, and there might be some overlap there, which is that's fine, but I'd probably go with ADAC or ADUC to start with, and then moving on to ADAC to sort of see if you can advance your skills a little bit in compared to sort of just sticking with ADUC. Next is group policy. Group policy is, yet again, very, very powerful when it comes to Windows System Administration. It allows you to centrally manage settings and permissions of users all across an entire network. And this can be extremely useful for locking down access to folders, applications, and Windows settings. Group policy is extremely helpful if you're trying to create super low-level users, like users that have no privileges, basically. And that's useful in competitions, because if you jump on a domain and you just have a bunch of users that are kind of sketchy, you can make a new group that has all this group policy, which basically gives them access to nothing, and then you can move them to that group, and boom, you have a group of users that is zero trust. Basically, they have no permissions, they can't do anything. So if you see something sort of off, that's worth learning how to do, is learning how to institute group policies. Firewall rules is also another thing that can be effective through group policy. Sometimes people, through group policy, the firewall can be turned off. Like certain things in the firewall can be turned off through group policy, like IPv. I think it's like ICMP pinging can be turned off through group policy, and a handful of other things. There's so much in group policy that you'd you'd probably uh, give yourself a migraine if you tried to read through it all in one sitting. But that is another extremely, extremely, extremely powerful tool to have at your disposal. And a lot of times you almost forget that it's there because it sort of slips your mind. But once you have it, um, once you sort of remind yourself about it and remind yourself of what you can actually do with group policy, then it becomes a very powerful asset. So basically, in conclusion, I know this is kind of short because it's such a wide topic to cover, and it's really, I mean, it's kind of crazy all the stuff that you can do and how powerful the Active Directory actually is, especially when it comes to, man, even a small network of computers, like in a competition setting, like 2 workstations, and then you have your domain controller. Even that is extremely powerful. That can, it provides so many tools for administration and, setting privileges and rights and doing the things that, you know, instituting our best practices. You talk about it all the time. Institute the best practices. Make sure you're doing best practices. It allows you to do all those things very seamlessly, very fluidly. And there's so much to learn. There's a lot to learn. We'll go through a little bit more in the hands-on portion. We'll be utilizing our server, and we'll be utilizing some Windows servers. We'll be upgrading them to domain controllers, and if we get through far enough and everyone's interested, we may be able to even I'll be able to talk you through joining a computer to the domain. And if you're interested further, I have a video course on Active Directory. Active Directory. It's a Linda video course. So just message me if you're interested in that, and I can send that your way. Um, so now, after this ends, we're gonna hop on over to the Discord for the hands-on portion. We're gonna be exploring some of the tools discussed in this presentation. ADUC, ADAC. We'll be exploring some group policy. So it's pretty straightforward. So I wouldn't shy away from at least trying it out. It's not that bad. And then yeah, so coming up next week, blue team practice on Tuesday at 7. Secure plus at 5 p.m. I don't know if that's yeah, okay. Red team at 7:30 on Thursday, and then I'm not sure if we're actually having a workshop tomorrow at 3:30. Um, I think we're off next week. And beyond that, um, there's our social media. Discord is for UAlbany students only. Keep that in mind. Obviously, you're here on Twitch, so there's no need for us to for you to hop on over there, but feel free to follow and all that to get notified of when we go live. So I'll leave this up here for a minute or two, and then I'm going to hop on down to the Discord, and we will get started with our hands-on activity. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you for coming out on a Friday. I know it's very nice out, so I appreciate the participation and giving us a watch. So we will conclude there.